This is the new flagship for Jeep. The resurrection of the iconic Wagoneer nameplate ushers in a new direction for the brand towards a more luxurious experience while not abandoning their rugged roots. So today, we're going to see if the new Jeep Grand Wagoneer is equal parts Grand and equal parts Jeep. Yeah, this is the Jeep Grand Wagoneer, but you wouldn't really know that by just looking at it. It says Jeep almost nowhere on this thing. And we'll cover that when we talk about the exterior and the interior details, but what we have to do right now is jump behind the wheel and see if the ride is befitting of the $110,000 price tag.
We are going to start where we usually do, and that's talking about what's going on underneath the skin that kind of makes up the experience that you get on the road. From the ground up, you get a body-on-frame architecture much like its rivals, the Escalade and the Navigator. This frame, more specifically, is actually borrowed from the Ram 1500, so it's strong and it's capable. An example of that is its ability to tow 9,850 pounds, which is actually 2,000 pounds more than the Escalade.
And the other thing that you need for that big, healthy towing figure is a big engine. In plebeian base Wagoneers, you get the 5.7 liter naturally aspirated V8, or you have an option for a bigger engine. But in the Grand Wagoneer, you only get one engine option, and it's a 6.4 liter naturally aspirated V8. Now, where have we seen that before? That's right, it's the 392 motor, making 471 horsepower and 455 pound-feet of torque. And that's plenty for this thing.
And all that power goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission tuned to be more smooth shifts than performance. But this thing still feels genuinely quick for how big it is. Unfortunately, obviously having that much displacement and this thing being over 3 tons, it's gonna come with some disadvantages. And the disadvantage is the miles per gallon that you get. So this thing is EPA averaging 15. We've been averaging 13 the week that we've had it.
Yeah, so as a result, the fuel economy is pretty pathetic. We've been averaging just over 13 mpg during our week of testing with this thing. So that's not great, but I mean, what did you expect? Everyone keeps asking for a bigger, more luxurious, better appointed, better equipped, more powerful SUV. And all of those things come with a weight penalty. I think the interesting thing here to me is that you only get the 6.4 liter NA V8, and it's a great motor. However, it's interesting that they don't seem to make any effort to bring a more economical option. Now, of course, this is pretty early in its life cycle, and you'd probably be a fool to expect not to see a 4xe PHEV in here. Now, the interesting thing here is I would love to see this engine, the 6.4, with the plug-in hybrid option. So that way you can get to and from work economically, and when you want to beat on it, you can. So that could be coming later down the road. However, what we have to remind ourselves of is this isn't a sports SUV. This is a luxury SUV. And what does that mean? But ride is paramount.
The ride in here is really good. You have the Quadra-Lift air suspension on all 4 tires, and it does a fantastic job of kind of floating on the road. You hardly feel small and medium bumps, and it handles large bumps in a very German way, where you just get one thud and then it's basically over. There's no waddling after the bump is done. It's a very good ride. I wouldn't say it's S-Class level, but the fact that we're even mentioning that and comparing it to that should speak volumes. So, the Grand Wagoneer, I think we can all agree it does the grand part really well. But let's head over to Road America and see how it does the Jeep portion.
Off-roading the Grand Wagoneer, thanks to Road America for letting us have a go on their course again. This is $110,000 as tested. So I'm pretty confident in saying that this is the most expensive, most luxurious thing that's ever been on this course. So we're gonna try to be a little bit nice to it. But what we have here is a body on frame, same chassis that you would get under your Ram 1500. So in theory, and it only says Jeep on the windshield there, but it should be able to go off-road. So we're gonna test it.
Yeah, so we have 22-inch rims, 22-inch wheels, and all-season tires.
Yes.
So not the best setup for this track, so that's why we're not going to do every single obstacle here.
Yep. We're
going to just try and keep it light. The air suspension, I guess, how do you think it compares to like a normal suspension setup in a car like the 4Runner we were literally just in? I can't tell like that much of a difference.
I think in an off-road application, like on the road, it's a lot smoother and more comfortable, more like a luxury ride.
Yeah.
But on the road, like we're fully aired out on the suspension right now for maximum clearance, and like you're not going to get a lot of like compression and rebound and like soaking up a lot of the
So air suspension, you have the ability to I think lower it like ½ an inch and then raise it like 3.5 3.6 inches. So right now we're all the way maxed up. I think it's 10 inches of ground clearance.
Yeah.
We are in sand and mud mode.
We're in snow mode. So
there's
mode. Rock, sand and mud, and snow.
Auto and sport.
Right.
And we're in snow mode, and you can't lock your transfer case or your rear diff
until you go into 4 low.
Until you go into 4 low and only rock mode. So only
rock will lock the diff.
You can't put yourself in snow and then lock it yourself, which is very odd.
Yeah, you should be able to lock your diff independent of whatever it is you're doing.
We tried, and maybe we'll cut this part out and put it in voiceover if you actually can. But okay, first obstacle, nice big hill. Actually got out of my seat there.
It's totally fine.
I feel like it just feels very bloated with the air suspension up. Like,
yeah,
I feel like it's doesn't have a lot of give.
Correct. Yeah, we did this. I'm not going to do this hill because we are for sure going to hit the front end of this thing, and I like the front end of this thing, so I don't want to do that to Kelly. But no, so yeah, you get a couple like options in terms of off-road mode and whatever. And then actually, one of the things that we took the 4Runner out here earlier. It's like 4,700 pounds. This is like, I think, a ton heavier. Like this thing is a big mama. And like we just wanted to make sure that we could get through, because like we said, we're on all season tires, like street tires, big rims. So we wanted to make sure we didn't get stuck. Now, this is the thing that I think Paulo is not going to be happy that I'm turning left here, because I'm going to send it through the moguls.
You should,
with this big old thing,
lock the rear diff before you go over there.
So we have to turn into neutral to turn 4 low on, and then you can actually on your passenger screen turn on your like front-facing camera or whatever.
I didn't see where to do that.
It's in the menu there. So now I'm in 4 low. I can shift up to sand, snow, which locks the transfer case, and then I go up to rock, which locks the rear diff. So in theory, we shouldn't get a bunch of wheel spin. We should get enough traction. We do have our GLP traction boards in the back just in case. But this is probably the most luxurious thing that's gone through this mogul section. I've got my heated seat on. I've got my massage seat on, and we're going to go for it. We got to go into drive first.
Yeah, that might help. So yeah, we're locked. Transfer case is locked.
4 low.
Rear diff is locked.
This thing is so big. I'm like kind of regretting this now. Yes.
Glad that the parking sensor stays on.
It's no problem for this thing. That's amazing. This thing is huge. Granted, we didn't go like full articulation and that sort of thing, but I'm impressed.
Yeah, I think the rear locker really helped.
So all the way aired out on the Quadralift air suspension, which is very nice on the road. Turning
radius is pretty good.
It's actually, yeah, surprisingly good for something this big.
Yeah.
Now my butt is too hot. First world problems.
Yeah, this camera's pretty nice.
This is nice. I should start being in the car when we do the off-road stuff, because usually I'm outside in the snow or the mud getting B-roll of you doing this. This is way better deal.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Look at this. I know that this thing is huge, but it doesn't feel like super cumbersome out here. It does feel bigger and heavier than the 4Runner we were just out here in, but it doesn't feel like it's impossible to get through.
Yeah. I think that's where we bottomed out the 4Runner.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. It was looking for traction a little bit, but there was, I had full confidence that we were going to get up.
Yeah, we had enough momentum.
There it is. That's the Grand Wagoneer $110,000 car, off-roading, hooning in the snow, because it's still a Jeep.
It can do it.
This thing, man, I gotta tell you, for how big it is, I'm shocked at how good it did the off-road course.
Yeah, I think the ability to raise it up and then the locking diff, I think, really helped us out.
Fantastic. Tell me about the look of this thing.
Yeah, so we have the Obsidian version, or I guess package, and that basically means that everything gets murdered out black, and I think it looks fantastic.
Yes.
Up here you have a really aggressive front end. You have Wagoneer here in the grille. You have your tow hooks, and they're kind of like stealth black as well. You can't really notice that they're there.
Yeah.
And then I think my favorite feature, one of my favorite features on the exterior is you have sequential headlights and also turn signals, and the same thing in the back as well. They look really cool. It's very Audi to me.
Yeah, it's very premium feeling. And actually in tandem with the headlights thing, now that I'm noticing it, I do want to call out, so when they initially launched this thing, there was like no Jeep associated with it because they're trying to establish that kind of upmarket feel, but we looked around this thing and there's like 3 places that it says Jeep. It says it on the side of your projector here, it says it underneath your wing mirror, and it says it on the windshield, on the actual glass itself. Other than that, that's all the Jeeps. But around the side here, this is where you really get a sense of how big this thing is. And like any 3-row massive family hauler SUV, there's not a lot you can do stylistically with it, so it does look big. Like the front half I think looks great. The back half with that rear window looks a little bit chunky to me.
Yeah, it does look big, but I think the Obsidian, everything being all black, I think it kind of masks that, and you don't notice it as much as you would if this thing was red or blue. Like, yeah. I've seen some on the streets, and it is a lot more noticeable, and you're like, oh wow, that does look quite big, but everything kind of stealthy black, it looks sleek, and I don't think that's the first thing that people really notice when they look at it.
No, it's not like totally out of the blue. It's just like this something that I've noticed with our week with it. But like you said, the Obsidian package is definitely a must for me, and I think probably for you as well.
Yes.
You get the big 22-inch wheels, and they're caked in mud now, but you know, they look fantastic. Around the side, you've got Grand Wagoneer. US spec cars are the only ones that get the flag. Canada doesn't get it. Nobody else gets it because America.
USA.
And then of course, the running boards. We've talked about running boards on Downshift a lot. Never use them, right?
Yeah, but
it's been a pleasure using these this week. They've been nice.
Well, they kind of force you. Like, they're so wide, you kind of like have to use them.
Yes.
And the fact that they're stealth, like they literally, the underneath blends in with the color of the car.
Yeah,
you can't really tell they're there.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. This also has the Quadralift air suspension, so when it's parked and you get out of the car, it'll lower itself into its lowest setting, and then all the way aired out, we get 10 inches of clearance like we did for the off-road course. It was great.
Yeah. And then in the back, it's
oh, it says Jeep right here. Sorry, one more. That's the last one.
So 4th one.
Yep.
It's pretty simple back here. I actually think this is probably my least favorite look of it. Grand Wagoneer, you know, stitched pretty in big letters. Mm-hmm. You have your dual kind of truck exhaust. They're kind of hidden, actually.
Yeah, they're not trying to be like showy about their exhaust, and this thing sounds really good, so they could be showy about it, and they're just very incognito.
I do think it could sound better though. I mean, it's the same engine in the 3.9. Like,
yeah.
if this thing sounded like, if this thing sound, but if it had an active exhaust,
yes,
that would set it over the edge for me.
100%.
And then I do just want to say it's got like a really interesting. It's not carbon fiber, but it's like an interesting pattern
you could feel
around the license plate.
Yeah, there's just like a little texture, you know, and it's like that around the rest of the car too, especially on the front end. Like, you can see inside the headlight, there's almost like carbon fiber weave here. And then down on this, like, you have it actually like embossed into the plastic. Like, there is a sense of like luxury and occasion about this thing. And with that being said, there's also stuff about the glass, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of like got a film or like a temperament to it. And I've got a UV or a polarizer filter on the camera lens, and usually I can use that to get through the glass to get, you know, shots of the interior. I can't do it with this. It's like very tinted. It's pretty cool.
I think the more you look at this thing, the more features stick out, and you notice how like luxurious and how much time and effort actually went into styling this thing. But anyway, let's talk about the interior.
Let's do it. The interior here, it feels super expensive. Like, they nailed the design to me. There's so many different like materials and textures and patterns, and you know, very much like the outside, they carried it in here. It feels super expensive. Yeah,
I agree. It feels unique in here, and I think that they nailed it on the head with how luxurious it feels in here. It's primarily dominated by screens. Mm-hmm. You have 8 screens.
If you include your
if you include
mirror,
your
which is a screen because you can do the thing.
Yep. And it's A total of 72 inches.
That's so many.
Yeah, bigger than Matt's.
That's bigger than any of my TVs
that he owns, if you add it all up, which is kind of crazy.
I don't think you have a 72-inch TV, sir.
No, I don't.
So
I think it's like a 50. Dude, if Mike...
Poor? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, wow. Thanks, dude.
Mine's also a 50.
The cluster is digital. There's so much that you can customize in there, but I think the coolest feature that's on the digital cluster is the night vision. It'll highlight moving objects, people, human animals,
beings. Yeah, anything
aliens.
with a pulse.
Yes.
Like,
it'll highlight them yellow, so you don't have to constantly look down, but you'll see this like giant yellow block. But I just think that's awesome in low light conditions. It's one of those features that you didn't know you needed until you experience it.
I think it's just amazing that they can like zero in on something that's alive
and pick it up
versus like, oh, this, I don't know, this other car is hot.
Right.
You know, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. It's running the latest Uconnect system, which is really good. You have the wireless Apple CarPlay, which again, I think is one of those features that you don't know how good it is until you experience wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto.
It makes so much sense, especially because you have a wireless charging pad and you have slots for your phone. So it just works well. Yeah,
they thought of that. You have your HVAC screen here that can control your heated seats, your cooled seats, the massagers, which by the way, they're not, usually it's gimmicky, but in here, feels really good.
Super good.
Works really well.
Very good.
This screen, the HVAC screen, is covered in like a weird film compared to the other screens in here. I don't know why they did that, but sometimes it also struggled to pick up our touches.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because that screen rolls back to release or show you, where you can plug in stuff. But yeah, even when I was getting B-roll, like this screen filmed differently than the rest of the screens in here, which was a little odd.
No, it was weird. Over here, you have a passenger screen as well built into the dash.
And I can't see it from the driver's side because it's like they've done something again with the film.
Yeah, it's like the tempered glass or whatever. So only I can see it. But it is super cool. It has a bunch of features that are usable. So it has like a nanny camera so you can see everything that's going on in the back seats.
Fam cam.
Also has like an off-road mode. So if we're going off trail, I can also look at the cameras and kind of help Matt spot, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And then I think the other cool feature is if Matt's phone is connected to wireless Apple CarPlay, I can search here for Google Maps, somewhere we want to eat, whatever, and then throw it onto the main infotainment screen for Matt now to get directions, which is super cool.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like this, unlike BMW's little gesture control, this is a useful innovation. It's not just innovation for the sake of innovation. It is a useful thing that I would use all the time.
Yeah.
Super cool.
No, it's awesome.
And that's all the screens up front, including this, but there's more in the back.
Yeah, there's 2 rear entertainment screens, which are Fire Stick enabled, and the color, the quality, it's really crisp. They look great. And then you also have an HVAC control screen back there. They have heated and cooled seats back there, and then obviously they can control, the temperature and whatnot. Yeah,
it's kind of amazing the amount of screens in here, and they're all so good. The resolution, the black levels, they're fantastic. Talking about the tech stack a little bit further in terms of how it drives, the autopilot on here, very good. Top 5, I would say. Not quite Cadillac, not quite Tesla, not quite Hyundai, but very good. You don't have to you don't have to salt the steering wheel every time to remind it that you're there.
I think a lot better than the Ford we were in.
Yep, I would agree.
The Raptor.
The head-up display is great. You get a lot of information there. The only thing that I don't love here from the driver's seat is interacting with the heated and cooled seat controls. If you're not going to use that lower screen, you have kind of quick shortcut buttons next to your infotainment system up top. But they don't seem to have capacitive touch. If they do, I can't feel it.
No, they don't.
So I never know.
No, they don't.
If it's working.
You have capacitive touch down here on like your lane keep assist to turning that off. So I think that's a really small miss, but it is something that we should bring up. Yeah, because it's like, is it on? Is it, you have to look for the lights. I do think that the cup holders are a little bit small, and I'm actually surprised that there's not more up here. Like, I guess you have one in your door sill as well, but.
Yeah, I think the thing that bothers me is I expect them all to be too small because they all are, except for the 4Runner. But I can't even put our extenders in here because this is too high next to it. You can't do it.
Another weird thing is it claims, I think this thing has standard automatic rain detecting wipers, but there's no setting for it.
They're either terrible or they don't exist because I did not get it to work once.
So I was thinking maybe it's just always on, but yeah, it never did it unless I turned it on like an intermittent speed.
Yeah, I did not get them to work once. So those are the only two things that I don't like about this thing. To my experience, it doesn't have rain sensing wipers. And also, the turn signal on
it does sound cheap.
Sounds like a 2002 Kia.
Yeah, it sounds cheap.
It's not great.
Yeah, that's weird.
Those are the only two things I don't like about this interior.
And then I think another kind of quirky, cool feature that this thing has that you don't know you need until you experience it is the cooler in the center console, and it does such a good job.
Super cold.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, you can put your water bottles in there. It's big enough for analogy. It's big enough for, I think, your water bottle as well.
Yeah.
Really deep. So that's a super cool feature. And then, you know, just the overall feel in here, you have a giant panel roof here, and then you also have a sunroof in the third row. I mean, it feels so spacious in here.
It does. And the second row seats, they're really spacious back there. We talked about some of the amenities you get, the heated and cooled seats. Actually, to be honest, like, I might rather sit in the third row, because you have like power reclining seats back there. You have a huge amount of room. Me at 6'1", so you would fit back there too. Like, you have plenty of knee room, plenty of headroom. You've got your own dedicated sunroof. Your side window is huge. You've got, you know, USB-Cs back there. Like, it's great.
I think there's no bad seat in this car.
No, absolutely not. Of course, then we talk about the trunk. The trunk is not huge, but this is not the extended wheelbase version. The extended wheelbase version is coming, so you'll get, like, you know, a longer wheelbase with a bigger trunk, kind of like a Suburban. So that'll be super nice. And then, of course, you have your power buttons in the trunk to electronically drop and raise the third row. You can also drop the second row from the trunk, but you can't bring it back up.
And then I think there's also some controls to drop and lower some of the seats in the back when you open up the back seats as well. And then another cool thing is, like, let's say, you know, your kids hop in, they put the headrests up, they jump out, they're going to soccer. You want to put the headrest down so you have more visibility into the rear. You can control that all up here, which is super cool as well. Yeah,
I think everything about this thing was well thought out in terms of how it's going to be used.
Yeah, it feels like a $110,000 car in here. Absolutely.
And I think that's a good time to get into the final thoughts.
Yes.
So that's the new Jeep Grand Wagoneer. In terms of the name, as far as the Jeep part goes, it has more off-road capability than any of its drivers will ever ask of it. And in terms of the Grand part of the Wagoneer, well, I'll put it this way. I would rather spend my time behind the wheel of this Jeep than a Mercedes GLS. So with that, we hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next one.